Hey everybody, welcome back to the Average Joe podcast. How are you doing today? I'm coming to you from beautiful, sunny, just a little bit of snowy, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Hope you all are well, and I know I'm doing pretty good. Been spending some good time with the Lord, got to spend some time with a good friend, and just been able to have just decent, encouraging conversations, and we need that. So a couple nights ago, I was just getting ready to fall asleep, and I felt, it's weird to say, but it just popped in my head, thinking about Paul's thorn in his side. And it's something I've thought about before in the past, and I've thought about because of things that I have in my life that the Lord has not miraculously taken away from me, no matter how much I've prayed and cried and begged for him to take away. But I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's open up the word to 2 Corinthians 12. And I'm just going to read just starting in verse 1. Obviously the chapter before, so we can kind of understand the context of what he's talking about, is in chapter 11, he talks about all of his, I don't know, you can call them the sufferings that he has been subject to as a Christian, and I guess in the views of those from back then as an apostle. This is a man who, he went from town to town preaching the gospel. And his modus operandi was he would go to a town, normally would go to the local synagogue and then start preaching Jesus. And then believers would begin to come out of that crowd and get saved. And then he would start a local church. And most of the time he was run out of town and then on to the next town. And you laugh because it's just, there's the human side of you that wants to go, Paul, what's the matter with you, man? You're going to get killed. Because some of the places they genuinely were trying to kill him. There were times he was put in prison, and a few times there was a crowd, even from other towns, following him and chasing him out of the town he was in, riling up the crowds against him for preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. So this is a man who's been beaten, who has been thrown in jail, and has basically stared death in the face in some way, shape, or another. And yet he rejoices in it. It says here in the second half of verse 21 in the previous chapter of 11, he says, "But whatever anyone else dares to boast of, I am speaking as a fool. I also dare to boast of that." And then he goes into talking about what he can boast at. It says in verse 24, 5 times I received at the hands of the Jews the 40 lashes less one. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. A night and a day I was adrift at sea, on frequent journeys, in danger from rivers, danger from robbers, danger from my own people, danger from Gentiles, danger in the city, danger in the wilderness, danger at sea, danger from false brothers, in toil and hardship, through many a sleepless night, in hunger and thirst, often without food, in cold and exposure. And then he says, I love this last line, "And apart from other things, there is the daily pressure on me of my anxiety for all the churches." So not only was he, obviously the word here, danger, his life was in danger, whatever he was doing and wherever he went, preaching the gospel. And then he says, and beyond that other stuff, you're kind of like, that's not just other stuff, that's a pretty big deal. He talks about how he has the anxiety from the daily pressure for the churches. Because he didn't just go in and plant a church and went on his merry way and just kind of was like, okay, you're in good hands, bye. He cared about the church. He loved every church that was planted in his care. And he cared about them. And he wrote letters to them. Letter to the Corinthians, Philippians, Hebrews. He wrote to those churches. And sadly, a lot of the things he was writing was to correct them and to help them get back on the right path. But he cared about them that much. And obviously we know from his letters, he also did everything he could to not burden those churches. So whereas it is considered the right thing to do when a traveling minister came to town or an apostle, is that they would take care of them, they would feed them, they would clothe them, they would give them their needs, or even when they were out doing missionary work, they would send what they needed to them. And he refused all that and suffered for the gospel. And so let's start 12, verse 1. I must go on boasting, though there is nothing to be gained by it. I will go on to visions and revelations of the Lord. I know a man in Christ who 14 years ago was caught up in the third heaven. Whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And I know that this man was caught up into paradise, whether in the body or out of the body, I do not know. God knows. And he heard things that cannot be told, which man may not utter. On behalf of this man I will boast, but on my own behalf I will not boast, except of my weaknesses. Though if I should wish to boast, I would not be a fool, for I would be speaking the truth. But I refrain from it, so that no one may think more of me than he sees in me or hears from me. So to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh, a messenger of Satan to harass me, to keep me from becoming conceited. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord about this, that it might, or that it should leave me. But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you. My power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weakness, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me. For the sake of Christ, then, I am content with weaknesses, insults, hardships, persecutions, and calamities. For when I am weak, then I am strong. That's so beautiful. He's being so real writing that. And what I love is, to keep me from being conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations, a thorn was given to me in the flesh. And then he tried to ask it to be taken away. Now, we have no idea what this thorn is. He does not give us a description. He doesn't say, no, I meant a literal thorn. It's stuck. I can't get it out. We didn't have tweezers back then. He doesn't say. He doesn't say if it's something mental, a physical illness. We don't know. Or literally a devil on the shoulders yelling and screaming at him. Who knows? We don't know. I don't know if you've ever seen it. There was a movie that came out about 1.5 years ago, maybe 2 years now. And it was it's like the life of Paul, Paul, an apostle of Christ. Actually has the guy who played Jesus in, the Passion of the Christ. He plays Luke, the physician. But that movie, I won't spoil it for you, but at the end and through the second half of the movie, most of it, and then at the end, they give an artistic interpretation of what that thorn could have been. And I thought it was just a beautiful artistic interpretation of what that thorn could have been. I really want you to watch it because I don't want to spoil it. Like I want to scream it out right now what their interpretation was, because I thought the way they did it was it was beautiful. It showed, a sense of that torment he would have. And then of course the freedom from it when he was beheaded in Rome. So you're probably thinking, okay, you're talking about this thorn. You said you're going to talk about it. So there are those, especially my friends and family of the church, that I attended in Woodbridge, Virginia, that know about a serious thorn that I have dealt with since coming back from deploying to Afghanistan. And I deployed as a contractor, so I didn't deploy as a military member at that time. And I came back, and at first things were hunky-dory, but things started to happen about 6 months after I returned from Afghanistan, where I found myself having what I thought was heart issues. I thought I was having heart attack or something going on with my heart. Muscles were tightening, left arm was going numb. Then discovering these were panic attacks, anxiety attacks. And they were at the most serious where, I was on ambulances going to the hospital. Because I was, getting to the point where it was getting so bad that, I'm blacking out. I'm going completely numb on the left side of my body where, obviously when you call 911, they're going to be like, he's having a heart attack, get him to the hospital. And then of course the struggles of dealing with that and getting diagnosed with that, with PTSD and then of course all the trials and tribulations of being diagnosed by medical professionals and medicines being prescribed, some that work, some that I had allergic reactions to, and then the continuing walk that I have with it to this day. It is a thorn in my side. I have had charismatics tell me that I just don't have enough faith. I'm not praying well enough, and so because of that, it's my fault. There are things I saw in Afghanistan. I was there as a contractor. I was not armed. I hung out with Marines, had rocket attacks daily. And, when you've never experienced that, that's a whole new world of, dropping to the ground and, with a Kevlar helmet on and, covering your ears, open your mouth open real wide until the alarms are done or the rockets hit. Had a rocket attack where some rockets hit not even a full football field distance away from me where I was. I found myself, I saw some things that I just do not want to ever repeat that affected me. I happened to be there during the time frame when a certain Army soldier from Washington did some things, and because I did a certain type of job, I saw a lot of the evidence that was put out during that time because of where I was, and I saw things that greatly affected me. And that's putting it mildly. So here I was at home after deployment and found myself having these anxiety attacks. It got to the point where if you knew me prior to the PTSD, 100% outgoing, center of the crowd, center of attention, involved in anything and everything church-wise, just a real people person guy. All of a sudden, my birthday comes around. I love to be around people. I love to go out to eat and just enjoy people's company. Well, all of a sudden, anywhere I went where there was people, I'm looking for a way to get out, to run. My body just wants to escape. Like something bad's going to happen. My own birthday party, my birthday dinner, I had to run out of the restaurant. My mother-in-law got me tickets to go see a comedian that I like, Jim Gaffigan, good, clean family comedian guy. And I found myself running out of the show on multiple occasions because I could not sit with all those people. I felt like so claustrophobic. It was so strange. It's like I felt like something bad was going to happen and I had to run out to open air to escape whatever was going on. And then same at church. I remember being at a worship team practice and I ran off the stage and was in the corner of the gym crying, panicking, and a good fatherly mentor of mine named Terry, and another now retired military man, Caleb, they came to me and just put their arms around me and just, they understood what I didn't fully understand because they were both, one was still in and one, Terry, was retired. And so they understood. And the church, obviously, we had a large military presence there being in the Northern Virginia, D.C. area. And so, as I went through all this and then the diagnoses and the medicine being prescribed, I didn't want this. It was affecting my marriage and my children, where instead of wanting to be around people, I would get home from work. I would have panic attacks at work, come home from work, go up to my bedroom, shut all the blinds, turn off all the lights, get in bed, and just sit in pitch black quiet. And I'd have to do that for like an hour just to recover and then maybe be somewhat of a semblance of a human being to my children and my wife. And it was so hard. And it's something that has not left me. It is the thorn in my life that, I have begged, I have pleaded, I have prayed. We've done it as a family, as a church, as I've been a part of, that the Lord would just take this away. And he hasn't. It's being managed by counseling and prayer and in the word and in medicine. And I live a pretty normal life. Now, once in a while, it's a weird term to use today, but things may trigger the anxiety. And I have to I have to choose to do things to mitigate those symptoms, i.e., maybe talk to my wife, go for a walk, call a friend, or I get in the word or I pray and I just, I kind of fight through it. Now, these days, I can be with crowds of people lately, but I find myself that I'm a 50-50 person now. I can be amongst the crowd. I love it, but I find myself, after a while, I have to leave. I have to step back. Or, if I am able to survive like a whole event, like with my wife's, military balls or events that they'll do for the holidays, I'll do my best to stay as long as possible, maybe even to the end. But then after that, I need privacy. I need alone time, like I have my office here in my house. I'll come in here, I'll turn on the air freshener thing that cleans the air, but it makes that loud just noise and it just blocks out sounds from the rest of the house. And I can sit and I can open up the Bible or I'll listen to some worship music and I have to veg. And that's been something, and it has been something that I've struggled with now since late third quarter of 2012. And, it's mitigated, but it's still there. And there's things that may cause anxiety to rush to me. I know it can be a movie, it could be a TV show, it could be something where, there's war scenes or, I still remember sitting in the movie theaters when Civil War came out, Captain America, and there's the scene where, what's his name? Nick Fury gets shot in his apartment, and it's like that really loud gunshot sound. And by that time, I thought I was doing okay. I was on the meds, was kind of even keeled, but man, that gunshot went off, and it just shook me to the core. And the movie theater full of people, I was panicking. Nowadays, it just, I spend time with my wife and with the Lord and mitigate it through those processes. But again, this is a thorn that's in my side. I find it interesting that, I'm not sure if it's a thorn like Paul's, where he talks about how it keeps him from being conceited. But maybe it is. I am definitely one to brag about how blessed I am, even in the tough times, even when we're down and out in the dumps and the dirt, whether financially we're broken or just, finding ourselves beaten up and on the ground. I still will find ways to rejoice and to know that God takes care of me and gives me exactly what I need. And I rejoice in those things. Does this thorn keep me back? I don't know. I know that before the PTSD, I was even a louder and boisterous person than I am today. And probably a lot of people from Woodbridge, Virginia and Fairborn, Ohio and Aurora, Colorado, and heck, Bristol, Connecticut, where I was saved, would probably be able to attest to my boisterousness and my loudness, and that they could pick me out of a crowd really quickly. I know that since this has happened, I'm not I can be when the mood strikes me or I'm in a good mood, because one of the downsides of PTSD is you'll have days where you're sky high, feeling great, and then but when you feel down, it's down in the dumps. It's it's depression times 5. And it's not fun. Not fun for my wife, not fun for me. So could I be more joyful to the point where it's too annoying? It probably could be. I mean, Paul says here to keep me from becoming conceited because of the surpassing greatness of the revelations. That statement almost reminds me of how Paul says, he can brag about like he's a Hebrew of Hebrews, a Jew's Jew, born of the tribe of Benjamin. He has the long list that's basically like, look, I could be held on such a high pedestal just in the eyes of the Jewish people. Where he's saying like things I know and the things I've experienced. I mean, Jesus Christ has talked to me in person, the dreams I've had, the revelations I've had. I mean, he could be held at this really high pedestal as a Christian and in the eyes of fellow Christians. But what this thorn was that kept him humble, we don't know. But that really popped in my head about just how I struggle as your average Joe here. I suffer with PTSD. I suffer with anxiety, with panic attacks. I suffer with the need to both not only want to be with people and spend quality time with people, but at the same time to also need to shut myself out from the world to recover. I see it in my older middle child, Timothy. Benjamin, my oldest, is he's me. What I used to be 100%, just people person times 25, boisterous, loud, energetic. He's gonna be me. And that makes me nervous because I remember how people used to really not like me because of my overexcitedness and energy levels and loudness. I had no volume control. It just all came out. Where Timothy is the artistic side of me. Where even when I was boisterous and young, I still loved to sit and color and draw and sketch and build things. And I was perfectly happy doing that by myself. And I was an only child growing up. So I didn't have brothers and sisters to fight with like my 4 children have. I had my friends in the street that we lived on. I had my friends in school that I loved hanging out with. But, when you don't have siblings, when it's a rainy day, a snowy day, or it's a day where you just can't hang out with your friends, you're just kind of alone. You got to do your own thing. And so I learned how to do my own thing. And I see that in my son, Timothy, where, he will have no problem hanging out with friends. But, while his other brothers are running in circles outside, he comes in on his own, goes upstairs or downstairs, and he's playing with Legos or he's reading a book or he just colors, but he's by himself. And he's perfectly happy. It's what he wants. It's what he needs, because he gets to a point where he's overwhelmed and he goes and does his own thing to kind of unwind. And, I see that part of my thorn or my artistic side, but that part of me that I never had before until about 2012, that he does that. And so I struggle with that because it's not who I used to be. It has changed me. And, at times my wife would probably say it's for the better because I'm not as loud and boisterous and annoying. But at the same time, it has changed me where things I used to want to do or used to enjoy doing or have great excitement to do, I don't anymore. Or I have to fight past the anxiety and the pain to do it so I can be a part of a family event or a school event or a church event. I'll say this as a pastor, never had any issues preaching or being or even one-on-one counseling. Never had any issues with that. But when there were large gatherings I knew that might last a long time, like our events or outreaches, where I know personally that, when I get to this point, this is when I know that it's most likely going to kick in, that I'm going to need to step back, that I have to fight through that. And I have to push through that to serve him and to love the people the way they need to be loved. And also this thorn has also been life-changing in the sense that it has opened up doors that I may not have been able to actually walk through unless I had this struggle. Obviously, I am speaking along the lines of our military brothers and sisters who have deployed and have come back and are, as people would call them, they are damaged. They either have killed someone, or they have been a part of the mechanism that has caused death, or they have seen things, or their friends have died. There's all kinds of different things that can happen in a war zone that can affect not only our mind and our heart, but also our soul. And this has opened up the door where, yes, I have served in the Army, and I have served in the Air Force, and I have served in the Navy. I have deployed as a contractor. So I have these experiences. I know the lingo. I know how a military brother and sister lives, eats, sleeps. I know what their family lives are like. But this door, because of the PTSD, has opened up a different door where there's an understanding, where I found myself able to sit with a fellow brother and sister who struggles with this. And there's almost an unspoken, like, I get you. I see you, I hear you, I feel you. And it opens up the door to where I have been used by the Lord to be someone in which they can talk to, where maybe they felt they couldn't talk to someone. I know when I first went through this, I didn't know who to talk to, or even when I did, I didn't even know how to describe what was going on. And then thirdly, my wife didn't know what was going on, and she didn't have anyone to talk to. And it took many months after me going through everything that someone in our church, a spouse whose husband, unknowingly to us, was going through the same thing, the same ups and downs. He was almost, me and him could have been twin brothers on exactly how we were reacting and what we were doing with our panic attacks and the after effects and things like that, where she was able to talk to my wife, and my wife was like, oh my gosh, my husband's doing that. And it opened up her eyes and her understanding to ways in which she could better comfort me or just be there for me in the ways that I needed. And I'm thankful to God for her. Without my wife, I would be way worse off. I'm honest. And without the good friends I've had, like Terry and Caleb, and the chaplains I've known, and fellow brothers and sisters in Christ who understood, that have stood by me, put their arms around me. My good friend Aaron, who I don't even get to talk to that much. He lives in Florida, but he's someone that understood, and we could have those conversations. My best friend John Boy, these are just people in my life that understood what was going on with me and could look past the manicness of this anxiety, and knew that you just can't look at me and say, dude, man up, or, just chill, man, just calm down. What are you freaking out about? That they knew better than to just say those things, but to be like, we're here. What do you need? Do you just need me to sit here with you next to you on the couch while you're trying to calm down and I'm just here with you? I have Aaron. Aaron was that guy. He would just show up at my house and literally just sit next to me, put his arm around me, and just tell me, you're going to be okay, and we'll get through this. I had my best friend John Boy that I could talk to on the phone because we didn't live close to each other at the time. Terry, retired military officer that just, he understood. And he already has a gentle, fatherly, godly spirit that, you want him to be your dad. I wanted to be adopted, by him, because just how he just exude that fatherly love and care to me during those times. And so I'm thankful. I miss being around that church for that reason, for having the people I had at that time. But God has given me what I need and the people I need in my life to walk this path. And it's a struggle. And so I encourage you that if you're struggling with something, whether it's like me, anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD, whatever it is, or anything else that might be a thorn in your life that has changed your life, that has affected your life, that has changed who you are, or seemingly changed who you are, or, you just don't know. I'll tell you this right now. God has been with me every step of the way. There have been times where I thought I was close to death, and guess what? I wasn't. It was called a panic attack. makes you feel like you're about to die. Your heart racing like 140 beats per minute, it seems like, and faster and numb. Yeah. But he's been with me, and he's been with me by means of the hands and feet that he has placed in my life. Mentors and friends, brothers, sisters, you name it. He has been there for me, and he will be there for you. And let me tell you this right now. There is a stigma when it comes to mental health and anxiety and panic attacks and PTSD, and especially in the realm of Christianity. And I'll tell you what, I've had people tell me, how could you take medicine? How can you call yourself a Christian? How can you call yourself a pastor and take medicine for that? I'll tell you why, because it helps. Now, I'm one of the lucky ones where I'm on very, very low dosages compared to the people I know and the chat boards I've seen of people trying to get off of it, and it's hard. I am on and I've been the doses have been lowering over time, because obviously the goal for me and my family is I will get to the point where through prayer and scripture and friends and counseling that I will no longer need the medicine. That's my goal. How long it'll take to get there, I don't know. But it's been slowly and progressively going down. And you know what? And if medicine is what is needed for whatever you're struggling with, then pray about it. Don't let it be an automatic no because, well, I'm a Christian. I don't need medicine. You know, God gave doctors these brains for a reason. And yeah, there are some medicines out there that can sometimes be worse than the treatment, or than the illness that you may be suffering with, or whatever the thorn is in your life. But there are those where it's a necessary tool to help, whether it's get rid of it or just basically manage it and mitigate it, if the Lord does not bless you with a miraculous healing or bless us with the tools that are available today that they just can't heal you. That is the thorn in my life. So like I said, I encourage you that if you have a thorn in your life, a thorn in your side, that you have begged and pleaded the Lord to get rid of, that you may see it as something, okay, well, there's a reason. There's a reason. And it sucks to say that because people like to use that term for some really bad stuff. But I can say this, I don't know God's plan. I don't know his purposes. I am a human being, a fleshly creation in a very fallen world. My body is not perfect. My son Joshua, who went through the cancer fight twice, his body is not perfect. And it won't be until we're given the new bodies in the hereafter. Okay? And so things are going to go wrong. We see that every day in this world. From illnesses, deformities, genetics. I mean, just we're finding stuff every day where it's like, oh, there's something wrong with this or something wrong with that, or that this chromosome was tweaked and we're sorry. It's, doesn't matter. What matters is knowing is that God has a plan for us. I've been lucky where I am seeing some effects of my thorn being a blessing to others, even though I would rather not have it. I would rather it go away. But in spite of that, due to my experience with it and what has come from it, and the pain and suffering I have had because of it and my family, it has given us the opportunity to share with others what it is like or to help others. So that's why I say it has blessed others. It's not really blessing me because it sucks to have. It sucks to take the medicine. It sucks to go through this in life. It does. But I also understand, okay, Lord, I've begged, I've pleaded, I've prayed, and you have not taken this away. So here I am, all my brokenness before you, and I'm here to serve no matter what's going on in my life. And so I encourage you to seek the Lord, be in his word, because this word will feed us. It will give us everything we need to live this life, and we have his spirit to give us the strength we need and the wisdom. And so it's with that I end this episode, and I say thanks for listening again. Not sure who's out there, but if you're out there and you're hearing my voice and you just need a little encouragement, just know that, hey, I'm just an average Joe like you, walking this life. And just like you, I need Jesus every day, and I thank him for being there with me. May the Lord bless you and keep you till next time.